But then one question that comes up, and this is more on the topic of translation, is why do we have so many different translations? Like even in English, we have so many translations. So why is that? How can we go from one text and then end up with these different variations?
I I think the way many people think about this is completely upside down.
Mm,
Um, so when you look at this as a problem, and some people do, and I can understand that, the problem is not with the biblical text.
mm,
The problem is not with the manuscript evidence. The problem is not with the Hebrew or the Greek text that we're looking at. The problem is with this language that we speak.
mm,
Uh, it's getting the what's in the Hebrew and the little bit of Aramaic in the Old Testament and the Greek in the New Testament. Getting that into the English language is the problem.
mm,
So the problem is not with the biblical language. The problem is on our side. So
mm,
that's why we end up with so many different English translations. But because part of it is because of the way our language changes. So, certainly if you look at the King James version from the 15 from the 1600s, you compare it to what we have in 2025 today.
mhm.
The language is different, has similarities, but somebody picked up something in my office just yesterday. That's a page from a version of the King James version,
Mm,
1650, about 1650, something like that,
mm.
and um, and they couldn't even read it. Uh, so it's English, it's our language, but it's a different form of our language. And so our language continues to develop. The biblical Hebrew and biblical Greek is not changing. It's
Mm,
it's consistent. It's what it was, before. But our languages change it, and that requires. And
mm,
and it's not. I think we get this idea that if you've got a word in Greek, say in Philippians, that it's a very simple process to say, here's what that word means, and
mm.
here's what it means in English. But language doesn't work that way. So
Mm,
it's not that biblical Greek doesn't work that way. It's not that English doesn't work that way.
mm.
Language doesn't work that way. So so you have a word, all words, or most words at least, biggest majority of words have a range of meaning. And the
Mm,
only way we know what they mean is the context that those words sit in.
mm,
So context determines what a word means in its particular text. So I call it a thinking word in Philippians that's over and over and over. Um, so it's translated sometimes to think the same way,
mm,
to um, to feel the same way. So those ideas are all kind of in that word. Um, to have the same mindset,
mm.
that's a part of that as well. So you can't just say what's this one and not that one. It's
Uh,
the word can mean all of those things, and what's around it kind of helps you determine what it is. So that really is why we have different translations, is that you have people who are looking at this, and they're seeing something that's in the language that may not be apparent, like that word that I mentioned in 127, Philippians 127.
mm,
Um, I look into that word. I don't see it in English. I don't see it in my
mm,
English translations, but I look in the Greek and I see this idea of citizenship. And I, in my own translation, wrestled with how to communicate that idea in English to show that connection.
mm,
And so it's not that I think my translation is better than anybody else, but I'm just trying to get at the wealth of what's in a word or in a phrase or in a sentence a paragraph in the original text.
Mm.
So that's what it is. It's people who, we're continuing to look at the Bible. The Bible's not changing. The Bible's the same,
Mm.
but we're changing,
Mm.
and English is changing, and the way we understand the connection between the two languages is changing.
Yeah, I think that's good. I think that's the major point. It's like the gospel isn't changing through all this
Right.
translation. Like you said, the message of the Bible isn't changing, but rather translation continues to change as English changes, right? We need to help it make sense. Like you said, the student whoever came to pick up the Bible, they couldn't read it because it was this old English. So because of that, we're tackling with the hard work of translation to
Right.
help us understand the text.